So it's Melody Medley here again with Oyez Real Estate, talking about short sales and the process to get them through and approved. Previous videos, we talked about a little background history on what a short sale looks like, how to qualify and vet the seller, and then what short sale documents are needed to actually initiate the short sale. This video, we're going to go into talking to the lender and finding out and understanding about the different types of loans. So by now, we're on day 2 to 3, give or take. You should be able to speak to the lender. If you are not allowed to speak to the lender by day 3, something's wrong. You need to find out, where you can fax the LOA again, letter of authorization. Maybe you can email it directly to the person that's on the phone with you, but it should not take the bank more than 72 hours to upload that letter of authorization so you can speak to them. Don't waste any time. If you're on day 3, just resend it again. Just make sure that you're able to talk to the bank before the end of the week after you submit your short sale paperwork. You don't want to waste any time. By understanding the full history of the loan will actually help you process the short sale. This information is going to seem like a lot, but just hold on to it and refer back to it as you're processing the short sale. It will all come to fruition and make sense in the end, I promise. So by understanding the different types of loans, when you're calling the bank, what I like to call my first initial call to the bank, I am asking the bank all these questions. So one, I know that there's going to be different types of loans. There are conventional loans, VA loans, USDA, HUD insured loans, HELOC, which is home equity line of credit. There's reverse mortgages. There's a bunch more out there. These are the main ones that you see when processing short sales. You just want to understand first, what type of loan does the seller have? Number 2, who actually insures this loan? If it's a mortgage insurance company, which I like to call an MI, that's going to be basically your government-backed loan. So it's going to be HUD that insures the loan, USDA, or VA. Conventional loans typically have what's called private mortgage insurance, and that goes along with HELOC loans, reverse mortgages, and then conventional loans. So you want to find out who insures the loan, and then you want to actually find out who owns the note. So an investor is also called a note holder. It's going to be the party or entity that actually owns that mortgage note. The lender itself can actually own the mortgage note. So we're in this Academy case study, we're using Chase. Chase can actually own the note that we're working with. Then there is the lender who could actually be the servicer for processing the loan that the investor owns. So I'm going to recap that just to catch up. So you need to know 3 things right off the bat: the different types of loans, who insures the loans, and then who owns the note. Those are very important to understand. And this is the checklist that I use when I'm calling the bank. Feel free to use it, make notes, whatever you need to do. I would save this information after you get off the phone with them, maybe rewrite it, make sure you fully understand the loan that you're working with, because this will help you in the future processing the short sale. When I'm talking to the bank, I'm asking them, hey, is there a foreclosure date? That's the first question out of my mouth is there a foreclosure date? Okay, if there is, what is it set for? And who is the foreclosure attorney, and what is their information? Because you need to verify with that foreclosure attorney the information that you're getting. So if they say it's Barrett Daffin, Frat Pier Law Firm, okay, what is their phone number? Then you call them, ask them for their fax number for the letter of authorization so you can send them. A question that you can ask the bank too is, who is the CRM, which is the Customer Relationship Manager? Basically, the seller will always have a point of contact that they can call at their bank to talk to about options, their loan, whatever the case may be. I always say get their information because they're going to be on your side too. So find out what their name is and their contact information. And then we get into what type of loan it is. You need to ask them, is it an FHA, conventional, go down the row. Typically, if you just ask the question, the bank should be able to tell you. If it's a new person that you're talking to at the bank, they may say, huh? And then you have to prompt them. Well, is it an FHA? Is it conventional? So knowing the answers to some of these questions may help you even help the bank with processing. Again, you want to find out who owns the note. Is it a private investor? Is it a lender? Who owns the note? And then, of course, who is it insured by? And the reason why you have to know who it is insured by is because the insurance company, will also have to approve the short sale as well. So it's very important to know that. Other questions are if it's insured by HUD, you need to ask them a list of questions. HUD is very strict in their guidelines when processing short sales, so they're a little bit more detailed in their ways. And these questions, once answered, will help you in the future when you process your short sale. So the main question is you find out that it is insured by HUD, you need to get the FHA case number. Now the FHA case number is different from the actual loan number. So for instance, in our case study we're using Chase. So Chase has their own loan number, but FHA also has their own loan number. So you need to get both loan numbers and then send in your letter of authorization to HUD to be able to speak to HUD. You want to know if any appraisals have been previously done. You're trying to get a history of the loan at this point. So how many appraisals have been done? When was the last one completed? What was that value? When did that one expire? Specifically with HUD insured loans, you need to find out how many months behind the seller is. The seller may say, yeah, I'm 6 months behind, but the lender may actually say, no, they're actually 8 months behind. Knowing how many months behind they are with a HUD insured loan is going to play a very key role in this short sale, and we're going to talk about that next. So just keep that in mind. You're asking these questions for a reason, but these are the questions you need to ask. You need to ask if first legal has been filed, meaning has the bank already initiated the foreclosure process? If so, when? You need to get a time that it was first filed. You also want to find out if the seller has been reviewed for any retention options. Retention means that they're keeping the property. So it's probably a loan modification or maybe a forbearance program. You're getting the history of the loan. So you need to ask these questions to understand the history. So again, have they been reviewed for a loan modification or home retention or any liquidation options? Liquidation means that they're selling the house. So have they applied for a short sale in the past? If so, when? What was the outcome of that? Was it, canceled, shut down? Why was it? If it's already in a short sale review, when was it initiated? What part of the process are they in? So basically, you're grilling the bank for all this information because it's going to help you process. You also want to ask the bank, well, what is the approval process? What is the overall process? I've given you a flow chart on the generic flow chart, but as far as approval process, meaning there's an offer and it's trying to get approved, you want to find out the details on that. Typically, you'll be assigned a processor who does the financial review part. Once that's completed, they're going to pass the file to what's called a negotiator. Some banks only have one point of contact, where it's a negotiator the whole entire time. But by knowing who is processing your short sale on the bank side will help you gear your questions and communications with that person. So find out who's going to be processing your short sale, who's going to be your point of contact. Make sure that you're always giving your information out, saying, hey, that person at the bank can contact me directly. I am going to be representing the seller, so contact me with any questions or concerns. Then the last thing I suggest to do is to order a payoff. You just need to know what the payoff is. This helps in the future, and we'll talk about that in another slide. But this is basically your first call to the lender to find out the history of the loan. So let's dissect and break down the actual different types of loan. The first loan is a conventional loan. It's not guaranteed by any government agency, so it may or may not be insured. It's typically a fixed rate, and with the terms and the rate, it's fixed. They are owned either by a private investor or the lender itself. They're insured either by a private mortgage insurer or not insured at all. The seller relocation for conventional loans is case by case. I've seen them do $5,000 and I've also seen them pay $3,000. I've seen one lender pay 1% of the net as seller relocation. So when I'm first initiating a short sale, I always just start off at $5,000 for seller relocation when I'm dealing with conventional loans, and I'm going to let the bank tell me otherwise to reduce it. Of course, you want to get your seller the most money. It's just helpful in the end if they everybody needs money in this situation, so it'll really be beneficial to them if you can get them that money. And then deed restrictions, let's talk about that real quick. A deed restriction basically means that you cannot convey the property for a certain amount of time. And the reason why you need to know this information up front is because when you're negotiating offers and you're talking to your sellers about the potential money that they could get for the relocation money, you will already know. So when dealing with conventional loans, you can tell the seller you're eligible for up to $5,000. So that leaves the window open. Let them know that, you know, historically you've only seen $3,000, but we're going to try for $5,000. And then if you're working with investors who are bringing you contracts, you need to let them know that there could be a deed restriction in there because their exit strategy could be ruined and it would mess up your short sale because you actually don't know about the deed restrictions until you get the approval letter, and that is 6 months down the road. So by being able to talk about it up front and understanding will prevent a lot of hiccups in the end. We did learn this the hard way, and that's why we started keeping track of the conventional loans and the different types of loans and their requirements, is because we did have a few investors who got approved for the short sale. Their offer got approved. They go to closing. They see that there's a deed restriction where they can't sell the house, and they backed out of the contract because they didn't actually have the money to close. So it's very important to let all parties know upfront what they're dealing with. So by you knowing, helps yourself. So in this instance for conventional loans, they usually have a 1 to 30-day deed restriction, meaning you cannot convey the property for the first 30 days. Now, if you want to sell it for 120% of what you bought it for, then you cannot sell it for 90 days. So conventional loans, these are the deed restrictions. Now with the 90 days and the 120% doesn't mean that the buyer who buys it can't market and, you know, show the property and things like that. You just cannot transfer the deed within the set days that are issued in that approval letter. And the title company will have to put the deed restrictions into the deed when they convey the house at closing. So it's written right there. So conventional loans, and then we're going to talk about other loans and their restrictions too. So I've dealt with reverse mortgages. A reverse mortgage means that you usually have to be 62 years or older, and they convert their equity into cash with no monthly mortgage payments, but they agree to give the house back to the lender upon death. So if the homeowner is deceased, you need to act extremely fast. I mean, super fast. Hopefully the bank hasn't already started the foreclosure process, but you need to act fast. The last couple ones that I've done, the homeowner's been alive, so it's been very smooth. But if the homeowner is deceased, you got to act fast because the agreement is that the bank is going to retain that property back. They will still agree to do a short sale for you if the homeowner is deceased, but you got to be the one to act fast. So hopefully you get the seller's heirs who call you, and you guys can initiate that sooner rather than later. So with reverse mortgages, they're owned by the lender. They're insured either by a private mortgage insurer or they're not insured at all. For seller incentive, they're not going to get anything. Typically, one, because a homeowner may be deceased, and two, they agreed to give back the property. That's the agreement. The bank's not going to give them money on top of their agreement. Deed restrictions for reverse mortgages are case by case. It really depends on the lender. I've seen Chase issue a deed restriction, and then I've seen Wells Fargo not issue one. So again, if you have a buyer who is an LLC or an investor company, you just need to make sure that they're aware there could be a deed restriction with dealing with this type of loan. Another one is a home equity loan. So basically they borrow money by leveraging the equity in their house. This is owned by the lender. It's insured either by a private mortgage insurer or not insured at all. Seller incentive is zero. The seller will not receive money. And the deed restrictions are going to be case by case. Each lender is different. I can't narrow it down to a specific yes or no. It is literally case by case when dealing with these types of loans. Then you have a VA loan. This is backed by the government. Homeowners get this. It's 100% financing with 0% down. It's usually owned by a private investor or the lender itself. It's going to be insured by VA. By knowing who insures it is going to help you when you have an issue with the bank. If you need to escalate, you're going to want to go to the mortgage insurer. The seller incentive, they can only receive $1,500. This is a fact. I've done several of these. The seller is only going to get $1,500. They can't get $1,600. They can't get $2,000. It is $1,500. That is all they're willing to offer. Deed restriction, again, is case by case. Another one is USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. The home has to be located in a eligible rural area for them to get this. It's a very low interest rate, and it's very little to nothing down for these homeowners to get into a USDA loan. These are owned either by a private investor or a lender. They're insured by PMI or not insured at all. Seller incentive is zero. They will not get incentive money. Deed restriction is also case by case. Here's the caveat. USDA loans can seek recourse. And again, it depends on the lender. I have one lender who did not seek recourse, and I had another lender that did. So when you're meeting with your seller and you know it's a USDA loan, you need to prompt them and say there is a possibility that they could seek recourse. That way there's no surprises in the end if it does come back like that. It's very, very rare that you do see this, and it's actually very rare that I see USDA loans go through a short sale, but nonetheless, knowing the loan and who insures it, who owns it, will definitely help you in your processing and help everybody understand where they're at. And then the last one, this is the kicker. I had to learn this the hard way, this information that I'm about to tell you. So please read this, take this into account, reread it several times until you fully understand it. These are HUD insured loans. I suggest if you're going to be processing a lot of HUD insured loans to read the HUD handbook. It's a lot of pages, but it's well worth it. So I'm going to kind of summarize the HUD handbook here for you. So just bear with me. It's going to sound very overwhelming, but again, this will help you with your processing in the future. So the first legal action to initiate foreclosure and reasonable due diligence timeframes. This is HUD saying, when can the bank start the foreclosure process for HUD insured loans? In this form, and it's called 24 CFR 203.356B. You can find this on HUD.gov. Just go to the website and type in this reference number and it'll bring up this form I'm talking about. But it basically shows all the due diligence timeframes that each lender can foreclose in a certain state. So for Texas, HUD is saying that the bank can start foreclosure activity within the first 3 months. So on the third month of missed payments, the lender can refer the loan to their attorneys to initiate the foreclosure proceedings. The third month. So the third month of missed payments, the sellers could actually be facing foreclosure. So HUD also states that during the first 3 months of the missed payments, the lender must do one of the three. They either need to file first legal, meaning they're referring the loan to their foreclosure attorneys. They have to review the seller for retention option, meaning loan modification or forbearance. Or the third one is they have to review the seller for liquidation, meaning a short sale or possibly even a deed in lieu. Deed in lieu is a voluntary foreclosure where the seller is basically just giving back the property to the bank. So a side note for these three things that the lenders must do for the first 3 months of missed payments, HUD is stating that they're actually going to allow the lenders 6 months for them to initiate any of these three. But that is not written into the handbook. That was just verbally said to me. So since it's actually written into the HUD handbook that it's 3 months, that's what I go by. HUD can change their mind at any time. They can accept stuff and not accept stuff, but the fact that you know that it is the first 3 months that they have to do these things will really help you in the future. If none of the three were done, then HUD is not going to approve the seller for a short sale. And the only way that you're going to find out is by asking those questions. So if you refer back to the previous video when we talked about the first initial call to the lender, all those questions that you were asking were for this reason. Because you do not want to get into a short sale, waste your time, the seller's time, the buyer's time, if you know this information and you know that HUD is not going to approve them for a short sale. This is very unfortunate. I saw this happen where the lender did not abide by the rules and they did not review the seller for one of these three options, and HUD said, we're not doing a short sale. And it was because the lender did not do their job. That was of no fault to the seller or mine or the buyers. It was the lender's fault. Now, we went and filed a complaint with the CFPB. I mean, we are taking action against them. But again, you have to ask the lenders these questions. Have you done one of the three before you get deep into this? Because what will happen is you're going to get 5 to 6 months into this, and that's when HUD's going to come back and say, we deny you for a short sale because the lender didn't do one of these 3 things. So you have to know it up front before you begin digging deep into the short sale process. So if we're going back to this list, if none of the 3 were done, HUD will not do a short sale. So if they didn't do that, the seller from this point only has 3 options. They can either reinstate the loan, but if they're going through a short sale, they have a financial hardship. They're not going to be able to do that. They can do a loan modification, but if their expenses are more than their income, they're not going to be able to be approved for the loan modification. And then the last thing is a deed in lieu. And if that's the case for the seller that happened to me on, I recommended that they did a deed in lieu because the only other option that they had was a foreclosure. And through a deed in lieu, the seller can actually negotiate with their lender for no recourse, which is what the short sale will do as well. So in this case, that was the seller's only option, was to do a deed in lieu. I hated for that to happen, but it was the case. So if the lender does not do one of the 3, file first legal, help the homeowner do retention or liquidation options, HUD is not going to do a short sale for this homeowner. And the reason why is because HUD is insuring the loan. So HUD is going to pay back the difference on the loss of the mortgage. So if the lender's not following protocol, HUD is not going to bail them out for doing that. The lenders need to be doing their job, and HUD will do their job and reimburse them. But if they don't do it, HUD says, too bad, so sad. You're going to have to take the loss on this mortgage completely and not be reinsured for it. This last little bit, this little tidbit, is something that is not in the HUD handbook, but by God, they follow it. So make sure that you remember this and take it to heart. HUD requires that all short sales have to be completed by the 40th month of a missed payment. So I'm going to repeat that. HUD states that the short sale has to be completed, closed, done, out of the books, out of everything, by the 40th month of the delinquent missed payment. Hope that makes sense. So when you're calling the lender the first time, you're asking them how many months behind are they, and if they say they're 38 months, don't even do the short sale. You can't, because HUD won't approve them. If they have a HUD insured loan, they're 38 months behind, HUD will not approve them for the short sale. We learned that the hard way on about 3 files. And we finally got to talk to HUD, to an escalation department, and we asked them a million questions. Why not? That's, the borrower's trying, they want to do the right thing. HUD just says, nope, we're tired. The bank should have foreclosed on it basically a long time ago and not waited till the 38th month to actually review them for a short sale. So that is something that they will not tell you, but now that you know, you can ask and you can prep yourself and your sellers and your buyers on how this is going to go. Again, refer to the first call checklist to the lender. Make sure you're asking all those questions so you know how or how not to move forward in the short sale. I hope this made sense. I would suggest go back and re-watch everything just so you know, but I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you very soon.